Good morning. This is in reference to Paul Krugman's article from November 21st, 2014, entitled Suffer Little Children. Now, the basic premise of the whole thing is that this is a good thing that President Obama did because it's the humane thing to do. And the humane thing to do is not to break up families. It's basically to keep families intact, to make them a part of the process here in the United States, to make them legal, to allow them to be educated, to work, to pay taxes, to be a part of it, to not be in the shadows, not to have to fear, etc., etc. So let me just go into the whole aspect of it. He talked about the tenement building, which is in New York City, where they had buildings of where tenements came. Immigrants came here in mass waves from the 1880s to the 1920s, or almost the 1920s. And it showed what the tenement housing was like from the mid-1880s to 1934. He went on to explain that he explained that to his parents one time, and he said, "Oh, that's the apartment we grew up in," meaning his parents. And meaning that it was a very typical type of an apartment for many people who were immigrants who came here at that particular point in time. He goes on to talk a little bit more about how we did have a lot of we did limit immigration over here after World War I until World War II or something like that. So that allowed the people that were already here to actually become more mainstream and to be able to be a part of the process that we could make all of the social services that are available to them in the United States. Now, getting back to his main point, this is the humane thing to do. So President Obama uses, by his executive authority, basically says to Customs Service, ICE, immigration, naturalization, blah, blah, immigration, customs enforcement, customs, etc., that don't go after anybody who are illegal, who are parents of natural-born citizens, meaning that the parents came here illegally, however, their children were born here in the United States, so their children are United States citizens. Don't go after them. That's basically just a discretionary policy that the executive authority, that is the right of the president in terms of their executive authority. You need to have only so much money. You only have so much money, so you have to prioritize your resources. He then went on to something that I've talked about many times, is that the Congress has never, ever really, they're big at talking about just enforcing the laws. Well, if you want to enforce the laws and you want to get rid of the 11 million people that are here, then you need to just probably put about $100 billion more into those agencies every year, so that they can do the full enforcement, so they get rid of everybody. But Congress doesn't have the teeth for that. They won't do that. It's a great bargain. It's a great political weapon for them, but they don't want to do anything else. So we have this situation here where Congress really doesn't want to do anything, and this is again, we have a representative democracy. So you have 2 senators from Wyoming, 2 senators from Montana, 2 senators from Rhode Island, 2 senators from California. California has 40-some million people, and those three states basically have a little bit more than 1 million people in it. But that's part of the representative democracy. So people in those states can bottleneck things that really should be good for what is good for the United States as a whole, which is that we need to bring our immigration policy up to date. Nothing is perfect. It'll never be perfect. You're never going to get rid of all of the ones that are here. You need to have a path to citizenship. And again, President Obama was very, very thorough in saying that we're going to increase the border security, that it's going to be harder if you decide you want to come here now than it was yesterday. And that we're going to make it, we're going to go after criminals, we're not going to go after children, and we're going to go after felons and not families. So all of those are good things. And of course, Dr. Krugman again brings up the most salient point. This is the humane thing to do. I like to say that this is the moral thing to do. This is the moral way you handle a problem that had not been handled well for the last 30 years. Again, nothing's perfect. There's all kinds of trade-offs in it, and I know that the Republicans are screaming bloody murder, whatever they want to call it, but they know, one of the reasons why they say it so loud and so distinctively is because they know there's nothing they can do. They just need to continue to get their coffers going for their PACs and their presidential runs and their aspirations, but they're really not going to be able to do anything, and they say that everything they're going to do is be based on Obama. It's really not based on Obama. They just don't want to work with him anyway. They don't want to do anything good for the country in the first place. So they're going to have to let this go. Again, as I've said, there's plenty of legal precedence for this whole thing. There really isn't that much more to discuss about it. It's a good thing to do. It's a humane thing to do. It's a moral thing to do, and it is immoral for a lot of those people, especially my sisters and brothers on the conservative side, to say, just enforce the law. We don't want to bring him here. President, executive fiat, monarch, Viceroy, Earl, vassal, whatever you want to call it. Obama is just doing what he's been entrusted to do. That is written in the Constitution, and he needs to continue to do that.